Hi everyone, Ashley here. Welcome back to my channel. Today's topic is how to concentrate on your studies for long hours. Hopefully you're not in this situation too often, but as a master's student myself, I can empathize with the fact that sometimes we just have to pull a marathon study session. Tip number one is to get your heart rate up before you sit down to start studying. And this is especially useful if you're going to be studying for longer periods of time. When you get your heart rate up by doing something cardiovascular, you are feeding your brain the energy that it needs for sustained concentration. Tip number two is to create your environment and consider all five senses. So your sense of sight, you want to be sitting in a clean, neat room, especially if you're going to be studying for long periods of time. You don't want extra distractions. You don't want your mind saying, oh my gosh, I should be cleaning right now. Look, this place is a mess. Really consider that sense of feel in terms of what you're sitting on and what you're actually wearing. You don't want to be feeling totally restrictive. At the same time, if you're in your pajamas, again, that might make you feel a little bit more lethargic. Think about what you can smell. I like to light incense or candles. It really starts to create that atmosphere for me that feels relaxing and comfortable, a space that I like to be studying in, which is important for long periods of time, of course. Typically you want to be in a silent room, but if you're doing other kinds of studying that are not so focused in terms of like reading, maybe you're doing flashcards or you're reviewing something that you're studying, then you could probably get away with a little bit of classical music. So you're doing marathon study sessions, so you'll probably want to be snacking on something at different points in time. You want to be careful about what you're eating and eating things that promote these marathon study sessions. Tip number three is to be realistic with yourself. You're probably not going to be jumping over the moon to do this. Motivation is often a byproduct of starting the process, getting into the material, and then motivation comes as a result. Tip number four is to prioritize with goals and do the hardest part first. Doing the hardest part first is going to give you that boost of motivation that you need. You want to prioritize your goals and focus on one content area at a time. Have those goals be around particular study topics. Tip number five is to avoid unnecessary technology. There are lots of studies that show the results of social media, of technology in general, and the distractions and the effects that that has. If your mind starts to tell you to just check that one email that you forgot to check, and you think, oh, I'll just take 2 minutes and do that, what you think is 2 minutes actually turns into 15 because it takes that long for your brain to re-engage in the way it was and get back into that momentum again. I'm losing my energy. Tip number six is to take breaks. A really interesting experiment was done back in World War II by a researcher named Norman Mackworth. The purpose of the research was to see how long a radar operator could sustain focused attention before it became literally a matter of life and death in World War II. What was found is that after 30 minutes, there was a dramatic drop in vigilance. 10 to 15% more mistakes after 30 minutes. The Pomodoro technique came in where you study for 25 minutes, then you take a 5-minute break, then you go back to studying for another 25 minutes. I recommend that if you are doing like really focused attention or if you are having a hard time with your concentration. Maybe you're just having a really bad day, or maybe the material is like you're especially resistant to it. If you can go longer, do like an hour on, 15 minutes off, hour on, 15 minutes off. So you can play around with this based on your energy levels, based on how interested in the content you are, but you certainly don't want to go beyond an hour and a half without taking like a 20-minute break. Tip number seven is eat the right kinds of food. You really want to be eating healthy fats, proteins, and drinking a lot of water. Your brain is 85% water. It lives off of water, so drink a lot of water. When you put yourself into a marathon studying session, you increase your anxiety levels automatically, okay? So you're going to probably experience a lot more cravings for things like carbs and sugars. You don't want to be spiking your blood sugar levels, so healthy fats, healthy proteins. Get some blueberries for the antioxidants, some flaxseed, But really be mindful about the kind of food you're eating, because that's going to be your source of energy. It's going to make a huge difference about whether or not you burn out. Tip number 8 is to stick to your plan. Your mind is going to be distracted. It's going to be jumping around. It's going to be giving you all sorts of suggestions about how you might be able to study better, more effectively. It's going to be questioning. All of this is normal. Okay, this is kind of just what minds do. So you want to come up with your plan in advance with your goals. It's really important, and then stick to it. Now, if your mind is pretty persistent, or if it has like a plan that actually seems pretty enticing, like it might be a better plan, then write it down on a piece of paper next to you and say, thank you, mind, very much for that suggestion, and I'll revisit it when I take my next break. Tip number 9 is switch it up. You just simply can't sit at a desk for like 9 hours, even with your study breaks. Maybe one study session, you do really concentrated, focused attention, and you take your break, and then maybe you do a slightly less concentrated type of studying, like making flashcards, for example, or watching videos on the particular subject. If you just kind of robotically study intensely the information, it's going to be really hard. I can't do it. Tip number 10, you want to listen to your body before you listen to your mind. Your mind is in a stressed state, right? You're doing lots of very focused attention, and it's in that state where it just wants to get it done. Your body is going to give you a lot more accurate information in terms of how you're doing. You can feel the tension start to mount in your shoulders or in your face. You want to pay attention to all of those signs from your body, and take a break earlier if you need to, because your mind is inevitably going to tell you to push through, or it'll tell you to give up. And if you're tracking yourself as you go, you won't need to do either of those things. So those are my tips on how to concentrate on studies for long hours. I would love to hear your feedback. Please leave your comments in the comments below if you have any suggestions for concentrating on studies for long hours that I didn't mention. You can also subscribe. This is a fairly new channel, so we'd love to have you back again. Have a little surprise for you at the end. I've created a 5-minute counting breaths exercise. It's really great to use right before you start your studies, or you re-engage with your studies after you've taken a break. The other thing that it's good for is helping you deal with distractions. It is just the nature of the mind to get distracted. The more quickly and efficiently we can notice when that's happened and come back to what we're studying, the more productive we are inevitably going to be. So I hope you enjoy it. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I look forward to seeing you again. Good luck with your studies.